And once again, we come to you with Harmony of Mind podcast. Now, Harmony of Mind is a platform where we talk to different artists that talk about their mental health struggles, their resilience, their lessons. And we are very happy today to be hosting a phenomenal talent. He is, we can say so many things, but he is a singer. He does so many things that he does, but let me not spoil it for you. Please, on Zima,
Yeah.
please tell us more about yourself.
I mean, Bernard Benzima on was, these are my bad names. I'm a Lugbar, born and raised from the Central. And artistically, they call me Minister Ras Bernard Benzima. That's from the hip hop, culture realm. And also I'm part of Authentic Voices Africa. So mostly they be like, AVA, which is the short form of Authentic Voices Africa. If you ask me about myself, most of the times, I also ask myself, how do I need to introduce myself? Because, I'm a part of a couple of things here and there, things to do with youth works and also, works in the artistic side as well. So, I mean, it's you to tell me, where do you want me to introduce myself?
We want it all. So personally, I know you as a hip hop
Yeah, hip hop.
legend. I know you to be celebrating communities,
Yeah, yeah.
using hip hop to. I usually used to call it hip hop,
Yeah,
but now
yeah.
it's hip hop. It's hip hop, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
uses hip hop to engage into communities
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
yes, please, you can.
Exactly.
Yes.
That. Thank you so much, man. Most of the times, it's always important, for people to get to know, what we deal with every day, and
Yes.
what we, really use to go about life.
Yes.
So yeah, basically, I come from hip hop culture. Hip hop culture, embedded two, four core elements, which is breaking and singing, graffiti, DJing. And
Yes.
with hip hop, I've been a part of this culture for over 14 years now.
Wow.
So actually, if you talk about my life journey, you'll talk about the moment I left home,
Yeah.
and then 2 years after that is when I came into
So at
the
what age
culture.
did you leave home?
I left home. I left home at the age of 14.
Oh, wow.
At the age of 14, but the works that I do, I work with youth under Zulu Legacy Youth Leadership Aid. So Youth Leadership Aid, was a program under the Universal Zulu Nation,
Wow.
and then what we did was, there are so many wrangles that came through in 2016, and then we had to break off. Universal Nation is the founding family of hip hop culture in USA, and then I was the regional director of the African, African continent on the Supreme World Council. So when wrangles came through, we had to separate in order to protect what we were doing with the young people. So this program has been running since 2014 in
Wow.
refugee camps mainly and other marginalized groups across East Africa. So with this, we focus majorly on mental health and creative, ways on
Yes.
how they can overcome, their challenges.
Wow.
For example, poverty, health, of course, and also, how they can heal. But most importantly, ours is restoration. Is young people, getting new meaning on how they see life. And then also with this program, we've managed to design different projects for, school going, kids,
Yes.
where
Yes.
teachers are able to work with young kids in schools,
Yes.
using arts and creative development, and of course with that, we've organized a couple of events and summits. These are
Wow.
youth summits where, youth come together to dialogue on how they view the world and how they move forward with the world. And also right now we are advocating for, for marginalized groups. For us, we call them underrepresented communities,
Yes.
to
Yes.
have, to be a stakeholder group in the
Yes.
UN spaces, because
Wow.
there's no full representation. They
Yes.
put, underrepresented groups under the, for example, youth, working groups, women, working groups, children working groups, cultural working groups. So now we are advocating for underrepresented communities to also have their own voice, in these spaces, because for the 10 years of our works with the UN spaces, UNHCR, UNICEF, one of the major challenges we faced is they don't really, understand, the approach to what we do, and they also don't fully recognize, the people that are displaced. They don't recognize, people that don't have a home due to wars and conflicts. They don't recognize their voices. So we've been advocating for that as well. And of course, on the artistic side, Authentic Voices Africa, we our products in music and film are focused on identity, decolonization of the mind, and most importantly, reconnection back to our original self. So if you listen to our music, if you watch our documentaries, all these are real life, documentaries, and stories that we capture and put together, and then after that we produce in either, plays, either, productions, and also, just music for people to listen to.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So about hip hop, you are a performer.
Yeah.
And you have performed on so many stages, international,
Right.
local stages,
Right.
and again, you're in community, you're in advocacy. How
Right.
do you stay grounded?
Yeah, it's purpose, right? It's purpose and
Wow.
vision.
Wow.
What drives me every day is purpose and vision, because when I look at my background, led me to a place where I had to get to know who I am and how I could turn my negative circumstances to the positive. So even now, of course, daily life circumstances will force me to sometimes be like, okay, I need to drive to be somewhere. I don't need to sit on a border, because, you find peers and people be like, yo, rush. So you kind of like have that stigma, what I mean? But it has never diverted me, actually. My grounding is on purpose and vision, because I gave my life to service, to be of service to the people. Following the example of Jesus Christ, I'm gonna put the Lord right in here. You know what I mean? So
Please.
Following the examples of Christ, that is when I was like, okay, it's time for me to really change, to have a change in my life. So reading the Bible and reading, different, small books like Rhapsody of Realities, by Pastor Chris back then, my elder brother, gratitude to him.
Wow.
I found out that the only way I could be useful, that turning point was to really help, others that, that I feel like have been part in the position that I was in before, that I could also help them, to find their own salvation and restoration, right? So that is what keeps me going every day. That is what actually reduces my pride. I have a lot of pride, you know what I mean? But that actually puts my pride down, because every time I go to sleep, I get reminded of where I was and why I need to do what I do. So I actually give a lot of love and attention in being in communities than being on stages. That is why I don't even really, you will rarely see me advertising me being on a stage or being,
That's
somewhere
true.
holding the mic, but you'll see me every day posting that flyer or poster when I'm headed somewhere. You'll see me posting that picture when I'm somewhere with my peers, so that is what keeps me grounded, man, is the examples of Christ, every time I imagine how he used to live, imagine one with great power and authority, over everything, living amongst men and conduct himself just like that, man, knowing that he could do whatever he could do at any moment, at any time, but that discipline, that humbleness, of even when people are shouting, oh, Jesus, Jesus, and him being, like on the low, on the power, just there, and every message of his, just about service, just about, we gotta heal, just about we gotta change our ways of life. I mean, that is why I'm grounded.
About wow, wow.
Yeah.
It's so interesting for you to actually talk about the life of Jesus, of how he's the creator, he's part of the creator, and then he
Exactly.
comes on earth, and then
Exactly.
he has to live like us. You know, I think it's an amazing thing for us as people who God has given purpose to stay grounded in who we are,
Yeah.
so that it's easier for us even to serve, because we are relatable.
Yeah.
We are not on our high horses or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But as a psychotherapist
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also an arts educator, how do you think that hip hop has created mental health awareness, and how has it helped in healing? Because you've talked about,
Yeah.
you know, helping people because you've been at a certain point in a certain life,
Yeah.
whereby that keeps you moving to help those people. How has hip hop helped done that?
Yo, first of all, hip hop is why I got, that degree
Wow.
of being a psychotherapist, right?
Wow.
It's from USA, gratitude to my godfather, Dr. Richard D. Rose, and also, my mentor.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So hip hop is beyond what we can imagine. So
Wow.
just imagine yourself being able to express yourself in the most authentic way you can. Because as people dealing with mental health, one of the major things we truly, long for is being able to express, to bring that out, right? So we all have different ways, to bring that out. Others, it ends up being, overpowered by the negative way, which is
Yes.
committing suicide or taking drugs, But hip hop gives you that avenue to be able to express yourself creatively and to also find your tribe, find people that, rhyme with how you rhyme. Right now, I'm able to go into spaces and then I easily find a B-boy or a B-girl,
Yes,
or a rapper or a graph writer or a DJ, that I can just rhyme with, that I can easily just talk with, what I mean? And also being able to produce, to bring out, your sorrow within yourself through a piece. You see these productions every day, right? These dance pieces, you've heard of, poems, spoken word, where an artist is really, if you're keen to what they're saying,
Yes,
you're really, you're hearing their pain, you
True.
see it in their eyes when they're on stages, So this is what hip hop has done to us, hip hop culture. The reason as to why hip hop started is because young people were facing discrimination, racism, poverty, unemployment, and all of that in USA, in the early 1960s, 70s. So, and then hip hop became an avenue for them, to redefine and redesign, the other opportunities on how they could, get out of poverty, and how they could address their issues, how they could unify. That's why the core four values of hip hop is peace, love, unity, and safely having fun. So young people gathering together, it meant that, different minds are coming together. Remember, when minds is coming together, you're coming together with all your problems, right? Problems, triumphs, and all of that. So when you come into a space, and then you're expressing yourself, no judgment, no one judging you, no one telling you can't dress a certain way, you can't speak a certain way. You speak in whichever way we feel you want to speak. You have that freedom of expression. So that's really, helped them to overcome a lot of things, So up to date, us working in the refugee camps, for example, you reach there, and actually when you hear these people, these young people expressing themselves, you actually really thank God for this gift of hope.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like you see, you personally listening to them and just watching them, you've lost hope, right? But for them, they have hope. They will tell you, like, yo, but I break, man. I have this song. Listen to this song. You know, they don't know where the song is going.
Yeah.
They don't know what you use the song for. They're like,
Yes.
listen to the song, man, and then they just rap to you happily, you know what I mean? So to
Yes.
me, this is what hip hop continues to do. You know, it allow in a nutshell, hip hop has allowed us to fully express ourselves, and most importantly, you know, to find that deep within ourselves, you know, to be able to bring it out in the creative way, you know, which creates hope and that holistic approach to healing and again restoration, you know, and most importantly that resilience, of course, that keeps us, you know, going every day.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Well, most of the time we get to know hip hop differently, obviously because of mainstream,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
the
yeah, of
drugs,
course.
you know the things that they do, and we do not understand the roots of what hip hop. You know, I'm forgetting. I forget.
Yeah,
I say
I
hip hop. No, the roots of
mean,
hip hop. You
yeah.
know, but what are those mental health challenges that you have personally gotten as ministers, that you have faced as first and foremost a creative, as an advocate, and if there is, how have you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, yeah. Just a little background, right?
Yes.
So I finished my P7 in 2006, right?
Okay.
2006. I'm done with my primary level exam. And then in 2004, you know, my parents are both, you know, civil servants, police
Yes.
officers.
Yes.
So, you know, these transfers that happen in the force. My mom's is in Kasese.
Yes.
My pops is in Kawempe. So, you know, me and my elder brother mostly, we start staying with my father. And then my father, you know, is usually mostly at work most of the time. So now we're only two of us, right? And again, after that, my elder brother also goes to school. And then me, I'm home, you know, alone. Um, 13 years now, senior one. You feel me? So these influences, right? Now, you know, going to the ghettos, you know, Wise and all of that, being
Yes.
introduced to all these different influences, you know, of drugs, of
Yes.
stealing, of robbery, of
Yes.
these unnecessary, you know, violences and fights. And that is also the first time I got to a club, you know, at that young age, just to go cause violence. You know, I still have some of the bruises with me, marks, man, that remind me of
Of
that.
violence, yes.
So I carry all that with me, you know, till now, you know, I'm a teenager, you know, so I'm carrying all that with me up to the age of 16. So when I carry that with me, remember, you want to go out of the past life. You want to introduce yourself to a new life. But
Yes.
what challenges you mostly is, you know, you still want to be present, right? You don't want to be absent. So what I do is I fully now run away from home. So I was not pushed away from home. I was not chased. I left home
You're
myself.
having like an escape
Yeah,
to
yeah,
something that
yeah.
you thought you needed.
Yeah, exactly. So I go out there, you know, I'm always in jail, out in and out of jail and all of that. I go to prison a couple of times, you know. So 3 months. The first was 3 months, the other one was around 4 months.
Yes, yes.
So I come out and then I'm like, what do I really need to do, you know? So my elder brother, you know, one of the guys I truly respect is he never gave up on me. And of course my parents as well, my family never gave up on me because they still welcomed me at a time. I wanted every time I made a call, they used to respond. And actually even this going in and out of jail, they're the ones that used to bring me out.
Oh,
Because,
wow.
you know, police officers, they have the economy, they know how they speak to speak to their people. But my elder brother used to take me to church. You know, imagine he takes me to church on a Sunday, and then in the morning I'm in church, in the night I'm in jail. You know, they pull me out. He never gives up.
Wow,
Takes me to
wow.
church. I'm in church the next Sunday. That very night I'm in jail, but he never gave up on me. So I remember I'm not staying home.
Yes, yes.
So he calls me. He's like, why don't
You've talked
you?
about not staying home. How did your brother used to get you? Used to get you straight from jail, then to church, or there
No, no, no,
was in
no,
the community
no,
that
no,
you
no.
lived
It was in the hood because
Okay.
he used to see me more often.
Oh,
He used to, because he used to move around like, big time, and he used to look, and then we could make arrangement. I didn't have a phone back then. And then it'd be like, yo, come through on Saturday. Most of the times he used to call me to give me like some coins. And then after it's like, tomorrow, we have this, they're going to be doing this. So we go. But anyways, man, fast forward, he tells me, he never gives up on me. He starts giving me books, Rhapsody of Reality. He starts telling me that, read through this stuff. I'm like, so one day I'm just there under the park, this big park. You see the old taxi park?
Yes, yes.
Under the stairs.
Yes.
Because I used to sleep there mostly. So I just get this book, and then just from nowhere, I'm reading.
Yes, yes.
So the first thing I read is Paul telling Timothy how, who he was. Just trying to tell Timothy, is like, yo, you're a young kid, man. You know what I mean? I've done all this.
Yes,
But, but God gave me the second chance.
Wow.
So I read that. So that is what that touched me,
Wow.
So, and then I was still I was a b-boy, So now I'm at Christian Life Churches where we used to practice from. So, and mainly me, I used to go there to just steal, to just snatch people things, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So this time around I go there, but my mind is all puzzled, I'm like, yo, what next? So that is when, I actually even got my first gig that very night. I performed on the top TV.
Wow.
So that is how things changed for me. But now back to this mental, issues that I face. So up to now, where you reach that point in life where you feel you have a debt you're supposed to pay.
Yes.
To the people you've wronged, to yourself.
Yes.
Man. Of course, yeah, of course, I've watched a couple of brothers pass away, being killed. You know what I mean, when I'm watching. So it's still up to now, still beats me that the realities of who I was up to now, they're still on my mind, And most of the times when I'm in the refugee camps, mostly being with my fellow brothers and sisters, when I hear their stories, on how they come to be in a foreign land, having lost all their parents and relatives, they don't have anyone. Those kind of like reopen up my wounds, And then most of the times, that's why most of the times, when I come back from such trips or tours, I always spend like 2 weeks just indoors,
Just to stay grounded.
Yeah, and then I thank God for people like Dr. Richard Dero is my mentor. When I need like, some therapy sessions and stuff, someone to talk to, I always do talk to him. And he's also one who is, like that divine helper that God sends to you to remind you that, in life we all go through a lot, but, it's not a debt that you have to pay. You don't have to cling on to that. So that is mostly what all the things that I do push me hard, even things to do with relationships, I remember a time, when that is now 2016, I started being in like so many relationships, what we can call now cheating and all of that. And then, having to play games around, with women and all of that. So all those things up to now, are things that, you know, sometimes when I become part of some programs, I feel I'm not worthy being a part of them. Like, for example, women empowerment programs, you know, things to do with, you know, people who are marginalized. I feel I'm not worthy, you know, because I feel like I've contributed
Oh.
to that cause, you know, I've ever, you know, seen someone die, man. I've hurt women, you know what I mean? I've done all these things, you know, it's real, it's real. So sometimes I'm like, you know, I don't even deserve healing for real, you know.
But you do.
I know, but I'm like, man, I don't deserve it because I feel like I've done way more worse than I even deserve to live. At the moment, man, you know, waking up in the morning and then someone, you know, gets an abortion, for example, not willingly, or, you know, someone, you know, having to have their life destroyed, man. I've had sisters come to me and tell me that, you know, you was my hope, you know what I
So
mean?
sad.
And then they like, I'm like this because of you. I gave my life to you. I'm like, man, you know what I mean? So man, it's these are things that up to now as a creative, as someone who works within all these groups of people, you know, I face every day,
Yeah.
you know, and as in quotes an expert, you know, up to now I'm still even searching for the meaning of cognitive behavior therapy, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, man, it's hard, you know. I remember when my mom's gave me a story of how I survived when I was young. And my paps also told me that story. They cried. They cried when they was each of them cried, you know what I mean, when they was telling me of how I survived when I was little. They had to run, you know, carry me on my back and ran with me up to the hospital. They couldn't find veins or where to inject it. They had to inject it in the head, you know, in the head. And then my pops was so angry, and she was like, sometimes she wished I just died. So I mean, so you know, but I was in the wrong for real. You know what I mean? I was really, you know, police officers, right? They're all about image and the law. So, and then having a son that was totally opposite, you know, opposite. For real, up to now, man. And I never had no relationship with my parents because I disappointed them a lot. I was the most loved. I used to get anything I wanted.
So now being in this space where you're impacting life through hip hop, you're impacting life through Authentic Voices Africa, is there a way you feel like you're kind of like paying back for that lost time or paying back for that disappointment that they had before?
Exactly, they're proud of me. They're proud of me, you know. I last talked to my pops who was together, I think 2 months ago. He came to Kampala. I had some issues. He came to help me out. You know, when I have these issues that people, so-called people, think they know the law, is when I put him on, and then he came. He came. So I was driving him, and then I told him, yeah, I have a spot I usually hang in the evening. Let's go. Can we go there? You know, we could get a couple of drinks, and I have my points. I don't have to pay. So he went. And then my father, that was the first time I've ever sat down with my father and spoke for hours.
Wow.
And my father told me how proud he was for me. And it was like they had given hope on me. Up to now, they also just thank God for the person I've turned out to be. And he told me that every day he prays for me. He tells me, so long as you don't do any crime, you're good. Even my mom's, I first talked to my mom's for long hours in COVID. We talked, I remember I had a flight that day, that night. I stayed with her. She was still in Entebbe. We talked. And we talked for like 8 hours. And my mom's told me at some point, there was like I was bewitched by the people from the village of how I turned out, you know. So if you ask me, you know, if I'm paying back, I've reached a point, where if you see, like, for example, Paul in the Bible, one soul, now Paul in the Bible, I feel like my life is now just of service to the Lord and to the works that I have to do, for God. So I fight every day. Of course, I'm a human being, right? We always get into those episodes, of the traumas and all of that, right?
Yes.
But what keeps me running every day is I know I've strived and I reached a point where I push to live righteously, and I thank God that now I'm conscious. I know, when I do something wrong, I know that I've done something wrong, and I repent, and I work. I become responsible for what I've done, and I become accountable. So, that's why I thank God for this gift of hip hop, because through these works I'm also getting my healing. You know what I mean? I'm getting my healing because even the fact that someone can come and talk to me and be like, for example, someone you wronged in the past comes to you and be like, if it wasn't you this and that, and then you just tell them, you're like, yo, back then, I was that, I'm not proud of what I was, but I'm at a point where the only thing I can do for you is to pray for you, and please, if there is any way, I can support you, to heal or to press on, please let me know. If it is in my reach to do, I'll make it happen. If it's not, I'll join forces. Let's keep praying. Let's trust in the Lord, who can turn everything around. So now I'm at a point of acceptance, right? So it's through these works, of course, watching someone who had nothing, someone in the refugee camps, lost every parent, gone, everyone gone, no relative, no someone they relate to, coming to you and then smiling, and they're the ones actually giving you hope, telling you, like, yo, bro, everything will be fine, man. We're good out here, So that is what is actually the source that is giving me, what I am now. And like I said, through the works, I've managed to connect with a lot of people.
Yes.
A lot of like people doing real work all over the world. And when you sit with mostly these elders, when they tell you about their journey, come on. You know what I mean? You'll be like, man, I'm not the devil. I'm just one who was influenced, by that side. But yeah.
Oh, interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, today's episode is called Rhymes of Resistance. We
Yeah.
are having a story with Minister Ras Benzima, who is telling us his story that is amazing. It's heart-filling. It's a story that speaks about his journey, a journey that where he was into the other side of the law and having challenges with his family, not because the family hated him, but because he was just against what the father stood for. And that is what Harmony of Minds podcast is all about. We are all about raw stories from artists, because Harmony of Mind is by an artist for the artist. And Minister Ras Benzima is talking about a raw story that is talking about his journey and what really inspires him and the things that he has done. He's an advocate, he's a psychotherapist, he's a rapper, he's a curator of events. And I am so excited to be listening to such a story from you. And I know, like, I came with so many questions, but today our discussion has gotten another turn. But before we go any further, let me just go on social media on YouTube. We are live on Living Arts YouTube. Please go and watch, go and listen in. We're having a very interesting engagement. Yes, Samuel Matovu, you've said nice to be on the show. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, because it's so amazing to see that someone is actually interested and listening in. We shall be updating you guys just a little while.
Yeah.
Yes. So you have worked on the streets.
Yeah.
You have worked
everywhere.
you've worked with refugees.
Yeah.
You've worked with really vulnerable individuals. And you've talked about how it sometimes brings you back to where you all start, where
Word,
you had issues with.
word.
And how, sometimes working in these communities is healing to yourself.
Yeah,
Please encourage an artist out there who is feeling like they should, hide themselves, judge themselves,
mm-hmm.
put themselves on in a guilt form,
Yeah,
and then they cannot be able to go out there and actually do something because of something
yeah,
that they have done in the past.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
please.
yeah. I mean, creatives, artists, whichever design you choose to call yourself, please, the most important, value in art is information and communication. You are a messenger of what you choose to pass on to the masses, right? So that means, a messenger has to be right with self in order to be authentic and real with what they give out. You know what I mean? So the only thing that I always tell people all the time that are into art is to always think for a minute. I mean, think about it, think about, you yourself in your own room or bedroom or wherever you are in your bed at that hour, in the night. We all have that hour in the night where it's just self-reflection.
Yes.
Just ask yourself, why you're really doing what you're doing. Because most of the times, we do what we do because of the influences we get from other people
Yes.
or artists with so-called role models, so-called, this one is the artist that I follow. I want to be like this one. So most of the times that, makes us detach away from our true reality and journey, and then we start focusing on being them. So at the
Yes.
end of the day, we end up doing what we're not supposed to do, living the way we're not supposed to live in order to achieve that. And then at the end of the day, what does that cause, man? It makes us, move into activities and things that we are not supposed to do to achieve that.
Yes.
But if you see yourself as a messenger carrying information that has been passed to you, from the spirit to be able to give that out, please, focus on that and remind yourself that as a storyteller, whether in dance, music, art, drawings and stuff.
Yes.
Me, I always tell people all the time, follow the example of Christ. I tell people that Christ was a storyteller. I mean, Christ tells you Christ was a messenger. He came to give us the word,
The message,
in
yeah.
its purest form, and he came to fulfill his purpose, which is to die on the cross, right? For us as Christians, we acknowledge that fact, but the way Jesus conducted himself was the way we're supposed to conduct ourselves. We live in a world that is full of realities. Coming from a third world country, I know every day I need to look for food. I need to look for money for that rent. I need to be able to pay my hospital bills when I'm sick, get that cloth on. And if you have a family, you know what time it is, right? So what I tell people all the time is face the reality in your way. Don't carry what is not yours. Why do you have to live like you can on a budget that is of 1,000,000 shillings, monthly, when your income is only 100K? That is why we end up facing a lot of issues, especially mentally. You know what I mean? Because you call yourself a Chris Brown or a Jay-Z or whatever artist you want to call yourself, or nowadays, Elijah Chitakas and them, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the reality is you're not them. They have their own journey. You have yours, man. So may I tell people, focus on praying to God, and then search for your own purpose, design your own goals and journeys, and please look within yourself and see what you have. You know what I mean? Most of the times we actually, say we don't have, yet we have all that we need to push us to the next level. To each more is given, more is required, right?
Yes.
But you can't get what you need if you can't manage the small resources you have, right? So
too much.
Yes, too
Yes.
much. But now I would say, you know, the hallucination,
Oh.
yeah, the fascination, you know, musical group from Canada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're actually the inspiration to me of
Wow.
Authentic Voices Africa.
Oh, wow.
So that would be my dream collaboration. Your hallucination, check me out, man.
Check him out.
Check me out.
Yeah, so we're coming at the end of our podcast today, and today has been different. The energy has been different.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of vulnerability. We how I wish we had 2 hours for this, because we had so much to talk about. And you know, when you talk about someone that you know as well, and then they're telling you new stories, and you're like, oh, we need to have another discussion. But you've had him himself. He has said anytime we can call him again, and
anytime.
I will be bringing him back anytime, and we shall be talking more, because I feel we have covered absolutely nothing when it comes to
Yeah, and we need to go deeper,
Yes,
like
we need
for
to go
real. Me,
deeper.
I have no problem
Yes.
expressing myself
Yes.
deeply, because it can help. If it helps someone out there, you know,
Yes.
to
And this is what
work out.
harmony of mind is all about.
Exactly,
It's all
sure.
about vulnerability, because this is a safe space.
Word.
This is a safe space.
And I'm safe.
And he's
Listen,
safe.
I'm safe, man, and I'm loving this.
Yes.
I am
I'm
cried
loving
yet.
it too.
I am cried. I'm happy.
Yes. We are coming to the end of today's show.
Word.
And I am very, very excited to be ending it. Not too excited, though, because we've not done what, you know, but at the same time excited that we are coming to the end of the hour.
True.
And again, I want to say my goodbyes to our viewers, to our listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of us.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.